Good morning. We are at the 2014 CALLERLAB convention, and this session is called Starting from Scratch. Patty Greene, Moderator, and Justin Russell, Panelist. So welcome. We're going to talk about how our experience has been. Sorry that the speaker's in the way. I'll just move every once in a while. Our experience on starting a new group, and Justin and I actually have two stories that come from a completely different space, so we're not going to be telling the same story. So, Justin, why don't you start, and then I'll follow.
Thank you, Patty. I'm Justin Russell. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I got a handout on the back. If you didn't pick it up, I got a couple extras here if you need it. If you are listening to it on the tape, be safe driving, and that's when I listen to all of mine, is when I'm driving. And then you can get all this information on my website.
Don't take notes while you're driving.
Yes, yeah, no, don't take notes, please. So I have a caller run club, and I've been the caller for 7 years there, and then I picked up a second group, a plus group, in 2010, and then somewhere in between I had this bright idea that I wanted to start a different club, and it wasn't going to be anything like a mainstream group that we have now. It was just going to be 30 calls, and the idea would be some of the challenges that we have in the activity is that classes are too long, so we were going to shorten the classes, and so that's the gist of why I wanted to start it. We did some advertising, we did some promotions. Ultimately, it didn't work out, so maybe I shouldn't be the best person to tell you about starting from scratch. But I learned a ton of stuff from that group. So that's where all the experience kind of comes from. The first thing I would recommend is write it down. Whatever your plan is, to just write it down, get it in writing. With my Caller Run Club, as every time we have a successful mainstream group graduate, they say, well, now we should be a plus club, and we should teach these people plus, and we should just be a plus group. And so it's nice to kind of go back and say, no, remember what we kind of said back in 2007, that, you know, our group is going to be a mainstream group. We want to welcome beginners. So it's nice to have that. Finding a hall, I think, is the hardest. We called 30 places before someone called us back that it ended up working out because it's Saturday night is my plus group. Trying to find a hall that's reasonable, that they're not going to push us out every time they have a gig. It was really hard to find out. It ended up working really well, though. The deal that they made with us is 10% of the door is what the church gets. And so, I mean, we were really fortunate. And so we were just honest with them. This is the situation we're in. Yes, John? You know, it's once a week. It's a weekly. All the groups in Memphis are weekly groups, and we don't go dark during the summer. We don't. It's year round. So I put in the handout some places that you can start: the parks and recreations, schools, Jewish Community Center is one of the places where we go, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, community centers. Some off-the-wall places that I've heard is that they dance in car dealerships. I've heard that people have danced there. The other kind of off-the-wall one was in the mall, in a vacant store until it was rented out. They were able to dance there. It's pretty creative. And then my next step right off the bat would be to have a clear message. When I tried to start my group that was not going to be like any other mainstream group, I got a lot of slack for that. I mean, people were, why do all these other clubs are not doing well, and why can't you just start this with one of the existing groups? But it was so off the wall, it was kind of out in left field from what we experience in the activity but I don't think I did a good enough job trying to explain to other dancers why I was trying to start this group. So, write it down and then just try to tell people about it, why you're doing it. I wasn't trying to take anything away from any of the other clubs, but I think that there are some things in the activity that makes it harder to advertise and harder to promote. And so those were the things that I was trying to address. For advertising, I'm on page 2 now. The best thing that I did, the number one people running in, banging on the door, wanting to take our beginner series was Groupon and Living Social. Does everybody know what they are? Does anybody not know? Okay, so it's an online deal, right? And so the name for Groupon is group coupons, and so you sign up in the city you're in. So I'm in Memphis. They send daily deals, and so the daily deal was 6 weeks of square dance lessons for 50% off. And so we did square and line dancing. We've done it a couple of times, and every time we kind of change it a little bit. One time we did square and line, and a lot of people came because they really wanted to line dance. And so we kind of changed that around the next time to kind of just promote square dancing. The idea behind it is it's half off. You're buying into something at a cheaper rate. So we were charging $30 for 6 weeks. So in this case, we were charging $15. Now, working with this company, they got $750, they got half of it, and we got half of it. And so there were some people that were like, well, this is a really bad deal. We're $30 worth, and we're only making $750 off of it. My idea was if after this is over, at week 7, if they keep coming, we can charge them full price. Hopefully, they'll stay and they'll bring a friend, and we can charge full price for that friend. And so even though I had some people kind of question my $750 goal, I still think, and there were people that have come out, they've stayed, they brought their friends, and I think overall it was a good deal. And the neat thing about using Groupon, if no one buys your deal, you're out $0. They do all the advertising for you, and so I think it's better than some of the traditional like newspaper advertisings. And so in the thing, I go ahead and I tell, we had 40 people show up. I talk about some of the experiences that we've had with Groupon. Newspapers is a really good way. It's free. I brought some of these. I do these all the time. Once a month, I end up in the paper, and I write these myself. Top Spinners 30th anniversary. Square dancers recognize birthdays. Square dancers at the Heritage Day Festival. I write all of these. Oh, this is an ad that we did. One of the really good ones, so usually they're really small like that, and they're like a paragraph. One of the really good ones we had is after the tsunami, the square dancers were raising money, and we had this really nice one. I submitted all the same information that I do every time, but this time they gave us a really full color picture, and then there's me and my grandma up there, and I write these myself. The cool thing about doing that is you can shape the conversation. Whatever you want to talk about, you can talk about. Sometimes when we're on the news or we end up in the paper, the reporter has no idea, right? And so, they say, well, the fiddles and banjos weren't there, but there was a lot of square dancers, and but you can shape your own conversation by writing it yourself. Meetup.com is one of the things that I talked about. Patrick talked about it in the first panel. It was really good. We did it for a while. We had up to 130 people that was liking our meetups. And what that meant was every time we sent out an invitation, they got a personal email talking about the event. People would come out. We had probably 20, 30 people that came from this site. The bad thing is that meetup.com, they want to do 100 different things. So this week they want to square dance. Next week they want a mountain bike. The next week they want a wine tasting. And so it didn't translate into becoming members of our club, but it was really good advertising. And the funny thing was, the next time we would have a free event, those same people would show up, and they would bring their friends. And so it was a definite a plus in advertising and getting people to come out. But meetup.com, it wasn't one of our best ones at getting people to actually join the club. I talk about door-to-door. Everybody's always talked about this as advertising and some of the things. I'm on page 3 now, and some of the things that they can do. The good thing about this is I keep going back to those same people. So 6 years, 7 years later, we're still advertising at the same mechanics. We're still advertising at the same Mexican restaurant that we always go to. One of the neat little tricks that I kind of picked up is I say, can can I drop off some of these? And then can I take your business card? I'll take any information, and I'll put it out at my dance if I can leave this with you. And that's kind of worked pretty well. You can throw it away if you want. Who knows, right? I leave it out there, of course, but it's kind of a good way to cross-sell. We did advertising with these little pamphlets. You can put them up at doctor's offices. One of our dancers, she's a nurse at a heart doctor, cardiologist. That's my college work there, right there. My vocabulary word. And so it has some of the benefits of square dancing. I brought a couple extra if you want to take these when you leave. Homeschoolers is a pretty good niche. The great thing about homeschoolers is every city has a curriculum fair. And the idea is, they have to meet their state standards. They have to buy their textbooks. So they have this curriculum fair, and thousands of families come to this event. And we set up a booth there, and we put up our advertising, and then we offered a dance just for them, and we called it Hoedown for Homeschoolers, I think. It was something silly. But we had 4 squares there that turned out. Now, not all of those dancers would have fit in a club setting because, some were really young and they couldn't pay attention the whole hour. But we had fun that night, and we got dancers to actually then come to our class and become members. Once you get into the homeschoolers, they're really well connected. They emails and newsletters, and so that really worked for us. The last thing is personal invitations. If you know somebody that's like a warm lead that they suggested that they might come, send them a personal invitation, almost like a wedding invitation or like a baby shower type invitation. And I think it just kind of guilts them into it maybe more than anything, but it works. They show up because of that. So I really found success with the and it's so easy now because with some of the online programs, it's really easy to do. You don't have to spend a ton of money. And even if you only want to do 2 or 3 of them, you don't have to make 100 invitations. Vistaprint.com is where I go to use most of this stuff. We do like little gift certificates that we give out. With the gift certificates, I tell them if you can give it as like a Christmas present or a birthday present. I tell my dancers that if they don't show up, you don't even have to pay me. They don't even have to pay the club. But if they did like the 6-week series or whatever promotion that we're doing, give somebody a gift certificate. Again, I think it might just guilt them into coming, but it works. And we kind of have it worked out with the dancers that if they don't show up, then they don't have to pay anything. Let's see. I talked a little bit about social media. We talked a lot about that in the first with Patrick in the opening remarks. How are we doing on time? Is it your turn? Okay. So with social media, I use Facebook a lot. And actually, Patty and I took a picture. I want to see how many. I posted mine too. We'll see how many people like it by the end of the panel. But social media, Facebook in particular, I love it. How many people have a Facebook? How many people don't have a Facebook at all? Okay, well, it doesn't matter. My dad finally got a Facebook. I'm so excited.
4 likes.
I got 4 likes. How many likes do you have?
I'm looking. Keep going.
I hope I have more than you.
Probably do.
Go to my Facebook now and like my.
Go to my Facebook.
But the neat thing about it's a good warm lead. Every time we have a dance, we take a picture and we post it on our Top Spinners Memphis Facebook page. We have like 170 fans of the group. Do you not have any likes? Oh, you don't have any likes. Steve liked Patty's, so somebody will do. I'll go and I'll like yours. I have a Facebook page for me, and then there's another Facebook page just for Top Spinners Memphis. And, you got 1 like. See? Oh, you liked? You can't like your own stuff. But we have 170 people. The great thing about it is Patty and I took a picture, and so I tagged her in my picture. all of her friends get to see that she was on my picture, and then all of my friends get to see it. And so I have like 1,000 friends. You probably have 800,000 friends too. I mean, that's 2,000 people that are looking at this one goofy picture that we just took. And so I do that before we have our lessons to kind of get people motivated and get people excited about it and just kind of get the word out. I've posted videos and it has like 1,000 views. And so, I mean, it gets around. And so my only suggestion, if you are going to use Facebook, is to not make it like a hard sell. Everybody's kind of have those friends that are trying to get them to buy a product, and they're just like selling really hard. When can I do it? I can come by. Hey, you missed the meeting, but we can make another meeting. Try not to make it really hard sell, but just kind of promote the activity and just kind of tell them about it. Let's see. I'm almost wrapping up. This is kind of a cool thing. Look for sponsorships. We contacted, one of the dancers did this, which I think was a brilliant idea. They went to the Historical Society in Memphis, and they made up this proposal saying that our dance is, there's tradition in we're the state dance of Tennessee, that we're square dancing. And so part of history is not just a building. I thought this was brilliant. It's not just a building, but this activity that we have is history. And so they gave us a $1,000 grant. And so we used that in advertising for our dances, which I thought it worked out really well. I talk about some other things that you can do: block parties, homeowners association meetings. We did a camping trip demo. So my homeschooler families, there was like 4 of them, and every year they go a couple hours away and they camp for the weekend. And so they asked me to come up there on that Saturday and to do a demo, because they knew everybody at that camping site. And so we actually danced in the driveway. But then all the other people kind of came out, and we had a really fun time. I talk about the first night. All of this stuff is pretty basic, right? It's pretty simple stuff. I think when you're there, some of it slips out, and you forget to use, like a variety of music. And so at the end of the dance, you think, I think I did all modern music. I should have done at least, one kind of old-time music, or I should have done at least something like a reel or something to kind of just change up the music. So I talk about that. Be inviting, have a variety of music, sign-ups. I try to have something that I can give to them when they sign in. And so we had like these little magnets made. It has our Top Spinners logo. This is kind of a cool one. We did these little chip clips, and my friends, every one of my friends has been suckered into coming to at least a beginner's class. And I was at a friend's house a couple of months ago. They still had this darn thing on their refrigerator, and it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago that they came to my class. And anyway, we do like little postcards like this. It's not very expensive. I think with Vistaprint.com you can print 250 for less than $10, but it's in color and you can put all the information you want on it. And then the last thing we did on the last page is just talking about keeping people engaged. So once they're there and they're having fun, not everybody likes to square dance the entire time. I'm just getting into I have an A2 group, and then I'm getting into C1, but I wouldn't call myself a C1 dancer. But at A2, they want to like debate the definitions during the breaks. To me, I have no interest in that. Like, I don't care at all, right? I would much rather just talk to you. And so with my beginners group, I kind of have more fun with those because we just do like silly stuff. We did a NCAA March Madness pool, and it was so much fun because that night we probably danced 2 tips, and the rest of the time we were updating our phones to see who's in the lead, and it's in overtime, and it was just fun. And it was $50 is all my dad actually won it. We do book swaps, and we just try to do other stuff than just square dance and go home. So that's my little spiel. I got a couple of stuff to kind of hand out if you'd like. at the end. But it's just all the information that we've kind of done over the last 7 years. Thank you. Here's Patty.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to tell you about my new club, the Cane Creek Cruisers, and how we got started. We're 3 years old now, ish. So I did not come up with the idea to start this new group. My track was with a local dancer who wanted to provide square dancing close to his house. He's about 30 minutes. We live in the Charlotte area, and we're about 30 minutes out of town, and it's backcountry roads, and he just accumulated some people that were interested in giving it a try. So he'd been percolating on it for a bit, and he had talked to me a couple of times, but I didn't think anything would come of it. And luckily it's right down the road from us, so it's local for me also. So he accumulated, he got about 8 people that wanted to give it a try. A couple of people who used to dance but didn't dance anymore, and some brand new people, and they were from his church. The church is literally across the street from his house. So it's kind of funny. So we started talking about it, and I'm always willing to give something a try, because I think that groups, new groups, they don't spring up as much as they used to. A lot of our current clubs are dying at the vine. We won't get into why, but some are doing really well. I have my own thoughts on ones that do well and ones that don't do well, but that's not what this session is about. So I said I would be absolutely delighted, and I was honored. So a couple of things that when you're starting a group from scratch, that I was aware of. The first thing is, look at your local square dance calendar. There's a lot of stuff going on in Charlotte, and we knew the kind of the demographic that we would pull from, the people, my friends, my square dance friends who would want to come visit us, the clubs that would support us, the clubs that wouldn't support us because they're way on the other side of town and you can't get to where we are from anywhere. So we took a look at the calendar, and we made a very conscious decision what night we thought would work and who we did not want to go up against, because we all know that clubs are very territorial. I was trying to revive a group in our area, and it was very slow going, but we were making a little bit of headway, and then somebody decided to pick the night that we were dancing to start their new group. And my club dried up in 2 seconds, because their place was easier to get to, whatever reason. And, there were other nights that could have been picked, but that's okay. So when we started our group, we wanted to be very conscious of what night we wanted to pick from the get-go, so that we weren't going to we didn't want to offend, but we also wanted to engage and let people know that we were at least being considerate. And I personally think that's pretty important. We do not have a big enough dancer base to support 3 clubs dancing on one night. So you can have 3 clubs with 2 squares at their dances, or you can pull it together and have 1 club with 6 squares. Which would you rather dance to? Let's be honest, 6 squares. So that was the first thing we did. Then we picked Tuesday nights, and Harvey wanted to be, he had very, very, very strong ideas of what he wanted this group to be. And we had long conversations about it, because I wanted it to be more, it was going to be a square dance group, but I wanted it to be casual and fellowship, because I know that people come to fellowship. We forget that. They want to dance, but I wanted people to want to come on Tuesday nights because they wanted to hang out with us. So that if they were looking for something to do, they said, you know what? We're going to go hang out with the Cane Creek Cruisers, because we always have a good time. We can get some good dancing in, laugh. If we haven't been in 3 weeks, they're going to take us in however we want. So that was kind of our focus. So we could only get the hall for one night. The church was only available for one night. Okay, so we want to have lessons, obviously, but we want to have club dances. So how did we work that out? For the first year, we did not hold a single club dance. It was all class. We danced from 6:30 to 9:30, and we danced from 6:30 to 8 was new dancers, and 8 to 9:30 was plus, because there were some people who were interested in getting back into plus. And so there was a big wide range of things. After the first year, we graduated 2 squares. I think we had 2 squares of dancers that actually kept with us, stayed with us. We had a pretty good start our first year. After the first year, we decided to become a formal club. We started another class, and the cycle begins. So a couple of things that I think have really worked in our favor. The first is we decided we would not start classes in September. Because if you think about it, if you start in September or October, you have maybe a month and a half of continuity before you break for Christmas. There you go. Then you have to pick up in January. We start in January because we have January, February. We have 3 months before our first break, which is this week, Easter. And we can go all the way to Christmas if we wanted to without a break in, that continuity. And what happens if you have most clubs shut down Christmas and then, they get started somewhere the middle of January, maybe the beginning of February. Well, that's 2 months where your dancers can find something else to do on the night that you want them to come to you. And it's very easy for them to find something different to do. A lot of clubs that shut down completely in the summer, that's 3 months where your dancers can find something else to do on the night that you dance. Bowling, a movie, stay home. So we start in January. We're casual. Somebody comes in, we'll take them in so long as it makes sense. If we graduate them in May, then we can start a new group immediately if we have the people. We're not structured into you must start on September 1st and you must graduate them on this day. I wanted to be very conscious of that it was going to take what it was going to take because it's more important that they stay. For our club, the structure that we decided upon, and people think we are completely crazy in our area, so we can only dance on Tuesdays. The 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th are class nights. We dance from 6:30 to 8 with our new dancers, and from 8 to 9:30 with mainstream, the calls that we don't ever get to call that they never learn, and plus. And then the 2nd and 4th is club night. So we dance from 6:30 to 7:30 class, and from 7:30 to 8:30, 7:30 to 9-ish. If it's a good night, we can get to 9:30. We have our regular dance where, dancers come in. The interesting phenomenon that I noticed was on the 2nd and 4th nights, weeks of the week, our class members who cannot dance with our club members yet because they don't have all the tools, they didn't leave. So at 7:25, I'd say, hey, great, thanks, love you, we'll see you next week, awesome, stick around if you want. You guys can do, after the first, once they have enough so it feels like square dancing, ladies' chain, you can do the first 2 singing calls. And I made sure it was a singing call figure that did what they knew. And then they wouldn't leave. They don't know how to recycle, but they were staying until 8:30, 9 o'clock, talking with people. They could do the line dance because we have line dancing. We have 2 line dancing on our club night. They could do the line dance. They were fellowshipping. They were eating. Our club members would talk to them. Oh, God forbid your club members talk to your class members, but they wouldn't leave. They would listen to me sing, watch the people dancing, laugh because we do a lot of laughing. And it was an interesting thing because when the time comes for graduation in our club, it feels weird to have a graduation because I'm not introducing these new dancers to our club. We're just crossing them over so they get a badge and they know now they can go anywhere. And I think that's been the best thing about only being able to dance on one night and doing what we do. Because from day one, our class members are made to feel welcome, and eventually, like now they've had square through and they can pass the ocean and they can run and trade and that stuff. Well, now in our dance night, they can. I tell them dance the first tip. So now they can dance the first 2 singing calls. They can dance the first tip. the regular dancers, so long as it feels like square dancing, regular dancers don't care that you don't call recycle. They just want it to not feel like circle dancing. They want it to feel like square dancing. And me as a caller, my job is to take 5 calls, 10 calls, wherever they are, and make it feel like square dancing so that nobody misses it. And that's been a huge social capital that we've gained upon, and I think that works in our favor. So this cycle, something that we did new that I'm going to continue, because it's all about building a club. You know, we are trying to build people who want to come. We don't have to be the largest club in the world, but we'd like to have enough people so it's not 2 squares every night and people want to come because they have a good time. So this year we started class and it was going well, and about too far along to have somebody new join us, a woman showed up from our local JARS community. And JARS, the Wycliffe Bible Translation, they are a missionary community in our area in Waxhaw. It's their headquarters, and they have people that come and go all the time. Some people are permanent. Some people are transient. They go out for months at a time. Well, she had come. Her husband was in Africa. She used to square dance a long time ago, and she wanted to join our class. I don't know how she found out about us, but she found out about us. Well, we can't jump her in because you guys all know if you take somebody who's never danced and throw them into a middle of the square of experienced dancers, the odds are they're not going to come back because it's too much. It's just too much for most people. So I took her aside and had a conversation with her and told her, don't ask me why. I don't know why I did this, but something just said, if you got 7 other dancers, I'd come over to JARS. It's 5 minutes further away. Whoopee, 20 minutes, 25 minutes for me. I'll come over and I'll see if I can catch you up on a Saturday. I can teach them everything they need to know, right? She was like, oh, would you do that? And I said, yeah. She said, what would you charge? I said, nothing. Again, my object is to make a connection so that they become not an income stream for my club, but they become a visitor, club member, part of my club family. So for me to go, give up 4 hours is nothing because of the rewards it could reap. The next day I get an email from her. She's got the youth center. She's got the family life minister, because they are a big community over there, on board. She's got at least 8 dancers, plus some more. She's got the youth group that wants to come. And here are 4 Saturdays. This was just a couple weeks ago. 4 Saturdays. How many do we need to do? And honestly, I was shocked that I got it the next morning, not even 12 hours after we had our conversation. Long story short, we picked 2 Saturdays. She did all the promotion. They have a community bulletin board in Waxhaw that she put it out on. She put it out on their JARS community email list. The family life minister put it out to all his youth group kids, which means families too. And we went from 12:30 to 4:30, and the only object I had was in those 2 sessions. It was 2 weeks in a row. Those 2 sessions, it was going to be, okay, I just need to get them to circle to a line. That's all I need to do. That's it. Maybe they'll join. And she was completely upfront. Yesterday, Patrick, talked a lot about give them all the information. A lot of times we say, come dance with us. We'd love for you to join our class. But you don't tell them where, or you don't tell them what's going to happen, or you don't tell them, it's like we're ashamed of the fact that we're ashamed of some of the aspects of our activity. Well, Susan said, hey, we're going to learn. The object is some of us want to join the Cane Creek Cruisers. You don't have to, but come and give it a try. Everybody's welcome. She said, bring a partner. It doesn't matter who you bring a partner with, because the reality is you got to have somebody to dance with, whether it's another woman or you got to have somebody to dance with or you can't do it. So Steve and I went over, praying all the way. I thought, I will be happy if we have 8 people. I can make it work with 8 people. It'd be good to have 10 people, because then our angels wouldn't have to dance, because we had 2 couples that were coming to fill in case we only had the 4 people. We had 5 squares of dancers there. 5 squares. We had a square of kids, girls, and 1 boy. We had Her husband came home from Africa Friday, and he was there Saturday morning. Bless his heart. We had about a square of people who used to dance, but have not been able to get back in. I don't know how. I posted it up on my Facebook page a few times. People who weren't coming liked it because they support me. They can't dance, but they're not even square dancers. Church members, family members, and we had quite a few people from her JARS community. Name tags. I brought some snacks. All I brought was like water and peanuts and
For 8 people?
fruit. For 8 people. Yeah, I know. Case of water is cheap. And we danced from 12:45 because I was in shock and people were talking, I'll admit it, to we didn't make it to 4:30 because people were just, especially my Africa guy and she, since it was her husband and she's the one who wanted to dance, I really judged it off of there. I was beside myself. Who knows if they're ever going to join our club? The next week, we did it again. We had 4 squares. She said 30. We had 4 squares. Some of them were the same people. Some of them weren't. Are people who they're trying to get their friends to get back into square dancing so they can go on this square dance week, and they showed up again. The best comment I heard was from a couple who I didn't think they were going to come back. They had a great time. They were laughing. At the end of the first one, I gave them the list of mainstream calls, and on the back I put the Taminations website, and then the website that has all the people dancing, the Saddlebrook, and I gave it, and I had a bunch of highlighters, and I said, okay, we're going to highlight what we know, and they knew like 30 calls. They were already dancing better than my class members. I'm not just saying that. They highlighted everything, and I'm like, well, that was a nice exercise. 4 squares the next week, and this one couple came back, and you make sure you greet them, you love them up one side and down the other. Our new dancers, you have to do it. And they told me, we had such a good time last week, it was time well spent. And I thought, that is the nicest thing somebody has said about this activity. Now, they want to start lessons with us the next go-round. They did not immediately come back to the club, but time well spent tells me that in the future, they may not dance with us for a long time, but in the future, they're going to think about coming to join us. So we did the same thing the second day, laugh, ha, ha, ha. Couple people came to the club, and I'm thinking, wow, this may actually work. If somebody comes to my club, because we're flexible, because I'm running the show with regards to the calling, I can do something like this. I called it a lift-off. The object was not to learn, the blast classes. They want to take you to 0 to whatever in a day. I just wanted to catch them up with the club, and it was wildly successful. These people were square dancing and having a good time, and they may never join our club, but they had a good time, and they may in the future. So I think that's a definite benefit for us. Let me just look at my list here.
I like that name,
Liftoff. So here are some things to think about if you're thinking about starting a group. Like Justin said, the first is, where are you going to do it? Think out of the box. I called for a club in New Hampshire, and twice a month we danced at a nursing home. Now, before you knock it, they had a wood floor. They gave their residents activity credit. Those residents, we started at 7. At 6:30, those residents wanted to be sitting around that floor because they didn't remember us. They wanted to be watching, and they paid the club $50 every time we came because we were entertainment. Now, we had a stigma because people are like, why are you going to dance? Why would you want to dance in a nursing home? Graduation came, and these residents who had been coming every week, I gave them all a carnation because they were kind of the grandparents, and it was funny to listen to them. And we just did our thing. We didn't deliberately entertain them, although every once in a while I'd play, can you name that tune with the residents, before we got started. Wood floor, paid to dance there. Hello. You can laugh at me all you want. It was win-win for the club. Plus, we got known in the community because we were doing something that gave back to the community. So it killed two birds with one stone. Like Justin said, you go to a mall, you go to a church. You don't have to pay $150 a night to get someplace to go. Think out of the box. How are you going to handle singles? We welcome singles. I don't care if you're two women. If you want to learn the boys part, I know a lot of callers will not do that. I don't care. I would rather have 2 squares of women dancing than 1 square of couples. Because, I'll tell you a story about that. We were going to start a group, or we were going to start a class, and I couldn't teach the first fun night, the first fun night. And I thought, how much damage can somebody do? So a single woman came, and she was told she couldn't dance because she didn't have a partner. This is like night 1. Oh, no, just wait. So I got told this. I was not happy. That caller will never call at my club again. She was the scout for a singles club that was looking for something to do. So they had a bunch of people who they said, hey, okay, Justin, why don't you go check out bowling here? We're just looking for things we can do as a group. And, Susie, this is square dance thing. Go check out the square dance thing. Let's see if it be something fun. Well, this caller just didn't want a woman dancing with a woman, first of all. And so she couldn't dance unless she had a man, and we just didn't have enough men to go around. And she never came back. We'll never get those people dancing again because of the impression that we gave them. That is not good. I don't care. You need to be singles friendly because you don't know who they know, right? I have no idea who, if Alan walks in my door, I don't know who she knows. Is she the scout? The person who says, hey, so you got to be overly friendly. If you are starting a group, you need to build that fellowship. It's almost more important than building the dance because the dance will come.
I'll even say some of my worst dancers are my best promoters. It's crazy how many. One of them, it's my dad's first cousin, and we call her Cousin Mary. Everybody in the club calls her Cousin Mary. But she brings people every time, but she can't dance. She's been there years, and she just can't get it. But she keeps bringing people, and so we love her. We welcome that.
What's your dress code? And like Justin said, these are all things you need to do up front so that it's not a surprise, so that all of a sudden you get somebody who comes into your new group and they're going to say, William, you can't wear a short sleeve shirt. You have to wear square dance clothes, and you have to wear a bolo, and make sure that your shoes are black. Oh, no. We started this group so that William was welcome. Just to do that. I've been very happy with our group because dancers will come visit us. We're kind of out of the way, so we don't get a whole lot of visitors, but we get visitors. We have some people that can dance and some people that are never going to be able to dance. We have we had a 90-year-old woman come at the liftoff class. How old was she? Like 80 something? Steve danced with an 8. She had a blast. We get at our club, because I'm known for to be a friend of the underdog, we're getting a lot of dancers who have been cast off from their club. I'm sorry, would you mind not coming back to our club because you can't dance? People, we are our own worst enemies. It is not about the dance. It's about the fellowship. I'll take them. You know what? Couple, you get stuck in you can all shake your heads because, you get stuck in a square of them, and poor Steve's got to work extra hard. But like Justin said, some of them can be your best promoters. And they're willing to work the gate because, whoever's the treasurer you don't dance a lot because you got to sit there. Well, what a perfect place to put somebody like that. They're only going to dance a couple tips. They feel useful. They're a part of the club. Somebody who's going to get cranky because they're jumping up every single tip when they're supposed to be minding the store. There are ways to do things. I think Justin would agree. It's very challenging to start a brand new group because a lot of current dancers perceive that as a threat, especially if people come. It's a threat. But if you are very conscious about being upfront and open with your calls association, you make a conscious decision as to what night or what time you dance, so that there's going to be conflict. But if Justin and I live 30 minutes from each other and we both have a group and his group dances on Thursdays, if I pick Thursdays, I'm an idiot. He's going to get mad because now people have to choose. Why couldn't I have picked Tuesdays? There's nothing going on Tuesdays. And if I pick Tuesday, we now can work together. We have in our little area, our subset of Charlotte, there's a Monday night group, there's a Tuesday night group, and there's a Thursday night group. Now, there's other Tuesday night groups, and there's other Monday night groups, and there's other blah, blah, blah. But those are the people who would probably come to our dance. The reality is a lot of people won't travel. And now they don't have to choose, which I think is a big thing. But blah, blah, blah. Does anybody have any questions or specific things they would like to contribute? Please come to the microphone because we are being taped. And don't stand in front of the speaker.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rich Delgado. I started a new club in 2008, and I just wanted to comment on a few things that have been said. One of the things was accumulate people. One of the ways that we were successful in getting a club launched and still dancing is I had contact information for everybody that ever square danced in the Mercer County, New Jersey area for probably in the last 25 or 30 years. So I knew who they were. We were able to invite them to the first dance. So I think accumulating people, accumulating contact information, keeping in touch with people, very, very important. You also commented about dancing in shopping malls. Right now, commercial space, very high vacancy rates. I'm dancing in churches, which works for me because I attend a church and I'm able to use another church of the same denomination for classes because I'm friendly with the other people, the other church. But there's a high vacancy rate. People that own shopping malls are very motivated to lease out the space as long as their opportunity to get a good permanent tenant in there is not interfered with. So you have the opportunity to lease that space at a very good rate, providing you're willing to take a provisional lease, so that if Macy's comes in the next week and says we want to open a big store and we want to take all the vacant space you have in the three vacant stores and start there, and we're signing a permanent lease, you're going to be out real quick. But on the other hand, there are locations where you can find plenty of parking. People know how to get to them. They're convenient. They're safe. So that's an opportunity that we have right now. Thank you.
Kind of just to reiterate some of the things that Patty said. When I started my group, it was called Grand Squares Memphis. That was the group that was dancing about the 30, I think it was 36 calls. It was like 6 a night is what we were teaching. I thought I did an excellent job at putting how I was going to call on paper. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about other ABC groups that were dancing, but what I didn't spend a lot of time on is the club aspect and the fellowship of it. And I think that was probably one of the things that was our ultimate demise, is that I didn't spend enough time cultivating the fellowship part of it. And so I definitely learned on that one. I sent out a newsletter after our classes after that night, and I found it was also a really good way that you can put square dance tips. We have all these kind of unwritten rules in the activity. If you're in a square, don't leave the square, and then yeah, make sure you wear deodorant to my dance. And if you're a new dancer, you just don't know, and other dancers get really offended. Well, if they don't know, why would we be offended? And so I found that was a really great way to put that in the newsletter, to just have like a little tip, and it can be really short. I use MailChimp.com, chimp like a monkey, MailChimp.com, and you can add graphics into it. It's free if you send less than 12,000 emails, and I'm sending less than 12,000 emails. And so it's kind of a nice way to kind of build on that. Some of the dancers that are no longer dancing in our club, I ask them if they want to be taken off. No one has ever asked to be taken off. They still like to get that email, and I think that goes back to Patty's point of just fellowship. And that's definitely one thing that I've learned.
Anybody else? Questions? We'll do Alan, then you. Yes.
Okay, my name's Alan Riggs from the Denver, Colorado area. Last fall, in October, Bob and I started a brand new club focused on the basic program. We, from CALLERLAB last year, how to be a rainmaker. We have always been doing this. We're always kind of creating things on our own, sometimes getting in trouble, but they're still going. So, but this group was aimed at the basic program. We informed all the callers that were teaching in our area that as soon as their class people had reached Basic 2, or is it Basic B now? In other words, the first 51 figures, so long as they had been taught Ferris wheel, they were welcome to come, even while they were continuing their classes through the mainstream program. The Front Range of Colorado focuses on mainstream dancing. That's our main destination dance program. So we wanted to do a better job of building the base and giving all of our dancers kind of a unique place to come and dance, to relax, to socialize, and to reacquaint themselves with the basics of whatever program they are dancing. If we ask dancers, what's the first call of the Plus program? Does anybody know what it is? Circle left. Okay, we had. Yeah, Justin. But we actually had a bunch of Plus dancers say, "Oh, but that's acey-deucey." And when Bob said, "No, it's circle left," they all kind of went, "Duh." Okay, so they started coming. We have never had too few dancers to dance. Now, Bob specializes in dancing with 4 people. Okay, 2 couples, 3 couples, 5 couples, all sorts of things. So we were hoping to have 3 couples, 2 to 3 couples at our first dance, and we had 6.5 couples. So, and we've had up to 3 squares so far. Again, we're aimed at the basic program, and we've had mainstream dancers say, "Well, why don't you just send those dancers over to our club? Because we're struggling." And I'm going, "I know why you're struggling." And no, this is our group. We did study the calendar for months to make sure that we chose the most available night, and we also...
Best advice if you start in a group. Best advice, study your calendar.
And we also looked at where the dances were being held. It was not necessarily our best night, but again, it was for the dance activity and for the dancers, not necessarily for us. So we've had to rearrange our schedule a little bit, or find a substitute or two when Bob was calling on that night. But we chose second and fourth Fridays. We are up against 3 clubs, one of which dances once a month. The other 2 dance twice a month on second and fourth Fridays. One of them is a high level plus group, the Moonlight Madness, with Bear Miller. That was one reason why it was not a good night for us, because we wanted to go. But we have given up Moonlight Madness for Red Hot Country Squares, and we advertise it as spicing up your dance life. And we have plus dancers that come and have an absolutely fabulous time. We have people that are still in class coming and having a great time. It gives them a club type of experience. This is caller run. We have no members. We are building a calling list and an email list. Bob and I bring coffee and water and cups, and the first 2 dances I brought a tray of veggies and a tray of brownies. After that, starting in November, anybody who came started bringing food. We now have more food at this dance than I think we have at our regular mainstream dances. But it's been great. We dance in a Grange, so it's another location for you to look at. Invariably, they will have wood floors. They have lots of parking. They have very reasonable rates, usually. We have a good deal going with this one Grange. We also, some of our other places that we dance in are dance studios. If you average 4 or 5 squares, dance studios are a good place to look at. If you are averaging, well, we actually moved from one dance studio to another because we were getting too big for the 4 to 5 square hall, and we are now averaging 7 squares a night. But, you have to get out there. There's no reason why callers can't start an event on their own. You arrange the hall. You're the caller. You don't have to have goodies there. We don't have goodies at our classes. We just supply water. People are perfectly happy with water. But we had dancers who have come up to us and said, well, why are you, as the caller, creating this new club? We are not the hired hands. We own a business, and we're going to create events and invite people to come. And if you don't want to come, that's okay. You are going to be where you need to be, and we're going to have fun with the dancers that show up.
I'm really excited that so many people. When did you start your group? 2008. No, October. And I've started mine, and Patty, you started yours. This is really exciting. I thought we were the only 2.
We're not the only 2.
This is really good.
We're not the only 2.
John Ryan from Ventura, California. What advice, there's some great tips in here, what advice would you have for a relatively newer caller to start a club from scratch who doesn't know he only has friends, but from scratch, from basic scratch?
if you have friends, you've got half the battle. In all seriousness, you can, if it's just to get some experience in your new caller. I know it's in our area, it's very difficult for a brand new caller to get hired anywhere because in our area everything is caller run. You'll attest to that. So the caller does the workshops and the dances. There are no guest spots, so you can't even get the word out. If you have friends and you've got some, we're assuming that you've got some dancers who are supportive, you can dance in your home or in a friend's home. You only need 8 people. Start them from circle. You can, until you get kind of comfortable with the language and the speaking and the talking, join your calls association, and just so you get your name out there and let them know that you'd be willing to fill in. Now, you may not going to fill in for a plus class, but you could certainly fill in for a class and do your homework and the whole 9 yards. It really is just accumulating people who would be willing to come. When I first started, I was in New England, and I saw a need in the summer because there was no dancing in the summer. So I did a, quote, Patty and Friends summer series. Every Sunday night we would dance have a mainstream dance, and because I didn't think anybody would come because they didn't know who I was, I invited a local caller or somebody who was coming through the area to call the dance with me. So, and I had a lot of friends because the callers loved the thing, and Steve and I caught a lot of flack because, oh my gosh, we're going up against all the clubs in the area. But what it did was, so for example, Ken Ratucci came and called. People know Ken. They don't know me. They were curious about this Patty and Friends thing. I had some T-shirts done, Patty and Friends, blah, 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 and buttons. Well, I had callers mad that they didn't get on my program. There's only 8 Sundays in the summer for the time I was doing it. And I was very, very selective about who I asked to come because that's my reputation too. And that's one way to create an opportunity for yourself in the summer. I just needed dancers in front of me so that I could not practice but let them know who I was. And I knew they would come eventually they were coming for me. They didn't the next year they didn't really care who the +2 was. But the Patty and Friends thing really seemed to, kick it off and work for me so that I could get my name out there. It's all about accumulating people and getting your name out, I think. Did we have one more? I think we have time for one more, and then
while you come up, I'll just say one thing. If you're looking for information, especially for beginners, Jerry Story has an ABC patio party. There is a lot of great information, and so he kind of walks you through how to teach the very beginning, and it's energetic, and to see how things kind of flow together. He has some singing call figures on there that he uses, and that's been pretty good. And just like kind of what Patty says, kind of just guilting your friends into coming. When I first started, I said, well, you just let me practice. Can we just practice? And then they ended up being members of the club. They just stayed around.
Mike Turner, Wichita, Kansas. Actually, my questions were multiple part. First, Justin, I wanted to know what your background is to help you in communicating via writing the articles for your newspapers. Also, for Patty, the question was, when you had too many ladies, did you always establish a bows and bells concept for the ladies, and did they always remain a bell or a bow, or did they interchange?
Oh, am I first? Okay. It was just kind of reading articles. You can Google. I was on Square Dance News, and every day on Google they'll send you an email with all the information that's on Google, and you can put in your keywords. And so for a while I was subscribing. No, I was not I was looking for ideas. I was researching. Yeah, I was just and so I would see, but it gave me a really good jumping off point. I saw a lot of stuff that I wouldn't want to say, that we kind of get stigmatized for, and then so it definitely gave me ideas of I don't want to go there. But then also I picked up some good things that they did talk about. It doesn't have to be very long. Mine are just a couple paragraphs. It basically is just advertising where we are. It gives them more information. Absolutely. And it takes some time. Like, you'll sit there at the computer. How else can I say this was fun without saying this was fun, the third time? It just takes some time. Yeah.
Our single lady challenge. So the reality is there are only a handful of calls that you have to be either a girl or a boy. Honestly, there's only a handful of calls. And that's how I teach. I don't teach so that, the girls are always on the girls' side and the boys are on the boys' side, and if you're dancing the girls, but I don't teach, okay, girls, this is what you do if it's not a specific gender thing. And if I have a bunch of single women, I'm not going to lie to them. It's going to, if you're here to dance, here's one way you can dance, and you will never lack for a dance partner, because there's always a woman who doesn't want to dance the boys' part. And so I'll teach you, and I don't care if you flip-flop, because the way I teach, the boy or girl thing is just to get them into position. And I very specifically use gender, I think you'll attest, gender-neutral terms unless I'm specifically helping somebody. But I get away from that quickly. Interesting, at the liftoff class, Susan brought neckties. So the girls' dance and the boys' part had a necktie, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. But I really don't care if you want to dance the girls' part one tip and the boys' part the other tip, or always be a boy or always be a girl. I just want you to have a good time, understanding that there are going to be a couple of differences you just need to be aware of depending on where you are. I just don't think that I personally don't think single women are a problem. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you, I've had situations where I've had single women at my club and all of a sudden the men start appearing. I'm serious. People don't think it forward. You don't know who that person who walks in the door knows. You don't know what their situation is, and you don't know what's going to happen if you welcome them. So the big thing is just not to lie to them. The worst mistake you can do with a single woman is to find them a club member, husband, who will dance with them during class, and then at the end of the class says, now you're on your own. That does more damage and that loses more dancers than you being honest from day one. Holy smokes, we got 16 single women here. Awesome. Hey, pair yourselves up. Somebody didn't learn the boy part, somebody learned the girl part. Well, they know right away. You're not creating that false slap in the face. Well, thank you for spending 3 months with us. Well, now, you need to go away unless you bring somebody in. That's just disrespectful and rude. You know what I mean? Same if you have a bunch of single men and you pair up a wife to dance with them, and then the wife all of a sudden disappears. Now, that problem's not as bad because there's always single women, but it's still the same thing. Sorry, go away. Now you're on your own. Anyways, thank you very much for coming. We hope you learned something. It is now lunchtime. Thanks to Justin, my friend Justin. Enjoy the rest of the convention, and we'll see you somewhere.